Hey guys, I'm Jeff. Welcome back to my channel. I just want to make a quick video about something. You can read in my YouTube profile or whatever it is about who I am. And this is kind of retirement, a pre-retirement channel now. Anyway, so what I'd like to cover is, when you go into retirement, you look into your past and you see the jobs you've done and things like that. Maybe you wish you could have done things differently or whatever. And it's not to blame anyone. I made the choices I made and ended up where I ended up. Anyway, the one thing I guess, or one of the things I regret, I guess, is when I was younger, 17, 18, I wanted to be a soldier, this, that, or the other. And I went into the Navy. Okay. Now, you kind of got to follow along with me here. I went into the Navy. It took me some places I have never would have seen and haven't seen since. That was kind of cool. I learned a lot of things, about at least how the military worked and things like that. And how, I guess, the biggest experience I got out of it was wherever you live, wherever it is in the U.S., when you go into the military and you go elsewhere in the world, it's not the same as where you left. A lot of times people who live in 200-mile radius of where they were born never get a full scope of it's not this way everywhere in the world. And when I went in the military, I got out of that mindset. And I saw a lot of things, and I'm pretty, I'm grateful about that. But what it also amounts to is, that's just a personal experience. That's something I did gain from the military, and about how much I could tolerate, and or what I could do. Yeah, I guess what I could do to tolerate things in life. They increased my breaking point, which, I guess I got that out of the military, and a lot of the knowledge about defense and some politics and things like that. Now, those things are not tangible, I guess, tangible assets. Those are just things up here and here that don't translate to anything other than me. When I die, that's it. Those are gone. It's not a life-changing experience for nobody else. So what I'm getting at is this, and this is the sticking point. All right, I went in the military. I'm not going to say what year, but I was what they call a Cold War veteran. All right? And what that means is, and this is just a short of it, is you're entitled to no benefits whatsoever at all, other than, GI Bill, the housing thing. But everybody gets those. Hell, people who only serve 6 months, blow out their knee, and get put out on a medical, they get the same benefits. So I get nothing at 55. I was not disabled in the military. I did my time. We went in and out of danger areas. There's no nothing of that. And, the Navy is different. And those of you who are in the other services who might be watching this, don't say MOS. I know what MOS means, but it doesn't pertain to the Navy. The Navy does things differently. MOS is whatever, military occupational specialty or whatever it means, like that. The Navy doesn't do that. In the Navy, they're called ratings. Your ratings are your job, not an MOS. Anyway, to cover that, it doesn't matter what I did. Like I said, the benefits I got from being in the Navy were what I said at the start of this video. What I'm not getting is after I got in the military, I get no VA anything other than the GI Bill or the housing thing. I get nothing. So, and don't say I can join the American Legion or I can't join the VFW because there's no declared combat when you're a Cold War vet. Even if you were in the Navy and you sailed into these combat areas, they didn't count that. Anyway, so it is this. I wasted X number of years in my life to serve as a Cold War veteran, to come out the far end and really have nothing more than those 2 or 3 things I said, what I learned about myself and how much I could tolerate. I got nothing out of the being in the military. The GI Bill I signed up for, okay? I did pay for that. I never got to use it. Why didn't I get to use it? Because when I went in, what the intent was to either be like a light aircraft pilot or to go into some sort of trade school. When I got out of the military, the GI Bill didn't cover those things. Well, now they do, but then they didn't. So, and it wasn't like when I got out of the military, it was 2 or 3 years and they covered it, or did these things. When I got out, I went past the 10-year deadline that I could use that GI Bill, and they still weren't covering the pilot end. I mean, light aircraft like Bush pilot or single engine. I'm not trying to fly a 747. None of that was covered after I got out. Even 10 years after I got out, it still wasn't covered in the GI Bill. So, taking that all into account, coming up into retirement and things we could do or we should have done in our past life or in our, earlier life, whatever. If I had to do all over again, I guess now hindsight's 2020. When I did the number of years in the Navy, all the people I left behind, friends and whatever else, were, when I got out of the military, they were years ahead of me in their jobs. They started out as, let's just say a peon, wherever they were at. They started out as a peon. And when I got out of the military, they were 5 years ahead of being a peon, whatever it was in whatever job. They might be managers or this, that, or the other. They moved up. Where I went sideways. I went from, I guess, being 17, 18-year-old peon in whatever job. I went sideways and did X number of years, got back into the workforce, and started out as a peon again. So the years I got in the Navy didn't help me at all. None. I saw a lot of things, but that doesn't translate to a paycheck. All right? I did a lot of things, doesn't translate to a paycheck. So I guess looking back, like I said, in my life, if I had to do things differently, I probably would not have joined the Navy. That's it. I just wouldn't have done it. If I knew then what I know now, of course we can all say that, I would not have joined the Navy. I would have not have done it. I get no benefit whatsoever of being in the military. Now, I can get, I guess you could call me a veteran, but, by the VA. Oh, well, let me tell you this little story first. I was in a military air show, wherever it was, doesn't matter where I was. And they had a big, like an RV thing. It was the VA talking about benefits and all these other things and this and this and that. It was pretty cool. So I went up there with a relative and sort of. He went up to see what the VA'd offer. He was a little older, and he asked, hey, you're a veteran, come up here and see what they got to offer. But I had to stop short. I didn't even approach the trailer. I had to stop short because I knew in my head, because I was a Cold War veteran, there was nothing that guy was going to tell me that was worth a shit. Or he was going to say, you don't qualify for anything, and then embarrass me or whatever else. So I've come to this point in my life. It says it in my profile. I'm a veteran, and I can't join the VFW. American Legion, yeah, I could do that thanks to Trump. I could join that, but they have causes, that they do within the American Legion, and that's good. Pay for veterans this, pay for veterans that, help veterans this. Okay, I would be contributing to that, and none of it would ever be for me. It just wouldn't include me. I could be doing whatever at the Legion. Oh, so once again, there's no benefit in any of that to me. So what it's come down to in retirement or coming up into retirement, those sections of your life where, you look back on, like I keep saying, you have to say, do I just keep admitting I was a veteran? Does it even matter? Does it matter to anyone? Does it matter to me? You know, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But right now I'm on that tipping point where, you know, I put it, like I said, in my YouTube stuff or in my X profile, X, formerly Twitter. I put it in there that I was a veteran. And I get nothing out of it. And I'm not expecting anything, but you know, it's become where, what's the point? What's the point of doing it? What's the point of putting it in there? Is there anything? Doesn't matter. Hell, it doesn't benefit me at all. So I guess in the 4-year portion of my life, 5 years, whatever it was, 6 years, whatever portion of my life that I gave to the military, served to benefit no one. Didn't benefit me at all. I don't know. So when you're coming up into retirement, what are you looking back on in your life? What are you looking back on? That job you missed, or that girlfriend, wife, or something, or whatever that went south and maybe shouldn't have, or whatever. What are you looking back on? I guess that would be my biggest sticking point, was just what I said, is the years I did in the military maybe I shouldn't have done it. I should have just stuck it out in the workforce like the other guys I just spoke about. Be a peon, and then 5, 6 years later, I wouldn't be that peon anymore. Instead of going in the military sideways and getting out as a peon, just that I've been in the military. And then I started behind the 8 ball as a result of it. You know, could I have done 20 years in the Navy? No, because it was okay, and it really just wasn't for me anymore. You know, I wanted a different path in life. They were not willing to work. You know, they said when I was in the Navy, oh, you can go to school, you can do this, you can do that. Okay. Well, the Navy's not tied to a shore base, or you know, you do have to go to sea eventually, and you can't schedule school around that at that time. And this is what I noticed is, and I didn't attempt to go to school. When I was where I was at, doesn't matter where, there were guys who wanted to go to school. And, you know, the military would pay for it. The Navy gave them so many problems about going to school, getting out of this, or having to leave, or go spending their nights at school. The Navy gave them so many problems, it just wasn't worth it. Also, at the time, drinking was a problem. Alcoholism was a terrible problem. But that was the norm in the Navy, alcoholism. Yep. DUIs, this, that, and trouble with the law in regards to drinking. We would get Fridays off, and as a condition of Fridays off, we would go to this park near where we were at. We had a picnic and barbecue, and it was just really mostly focused on drinking, right? And I really didn't care to do any of that. I'd be involved. And because I wasn't, you know, I don't want to say ostracized, but you're pushed out. You get what I'm saying? You're kind of blacklisted, or whatever you want to call it, because I didn't do those things. All right, so looking back at my life, that's, you know, one of the things I regret doing, and maybe should have looked at some other options at that time. I don't know. Let me know what you think of the video. You know, like, share, subscribe. I'd like to kind of get this pre-retirement channel going a little bit. It would help if you could just kind of maybe share it. Even if you don't like it, share it. And, you know, comment. That's what I'm kind of generate some comments, maybe put some direction as to where I'm going, or maybe put some direction to where you're going. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Jeff in Ohio.